Hello, everyone. Hello, Garbage Main, and thank you, Tyler, for having me. And
I think Tyler is amazing.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes and enjoyed it.
I go both ways. What do you think?
Archie Flower, are you there, sir?
hello.
The homeless are a fucking huge problem.
I done, and then right after that, you probably thought, well, I don't have it.
All right, let's go to another caller in Texas. Let's talk to Andrew. Andrew, thanks for calling.
Andrew.
Libertarian to Renaissance Fair pipeline.
Right. Yes, my maiden queen.
I gotta get more beer.
Okay. Perry, thank you.
Yep, Perry's in there. This is Libertarian Podcast Review. This is Tyler Yonke. We've got Andy Garbage Main. A few things in that intro. Perry needs to calm the fuck down.
No, he doesn't.
And we had El Popo, who we are going to talk about right away. NAP is no longer in business. Not a podcast.
Not a podcast is done.
Yep.
Pulpo is deceased from Twitter.
he fully nuked himself. It was an odd thing to do, but that's fine. Here's their goodbye. I don't know if you want me to read this to you, but he says, since Bert left the show, kind of sucks. I'm going to be off Patreon. They'll be deleted in a month, so you can sign up still. They're not doing any more shows. Maybe we'll come back to Twitter in the future, maybe a few months from now. Who knows? And there you go. So I guess I shouldn't. He said you still have a chance to watch them till the 15th, I think, of April. So if you want to go on there and you want to download all their stuff, he says, please don't put them out in public. So I think we're just going to go through their whole catalog and we're going to play them all live. Right now. I'm just kidding.
Well, it's a little disappointing. Twitter is a little bit brighter place with Pulpo in it, but you got to do what you got to do.
Honestly, Pulpo's good. Bert was great. I enjoyed him a lot. We still have Lee.
Steppy, Lee, yeah.
Steppy and Lee. Lee doesn't look to be backing off of Twitter. I actually have notifications on for him, and he bangs out a lot. He's an active boy on Twitter, so he's picking up the slack, I guess. So there you go.
Yeah, shout out to them dudes. Pulpo will hold a candlelight vigil in your honor.
Yeah, he never did follow me back, but he didn't block me, and he did step up for me once when Lee had blocked me, and then Lee's account got nuked and his new account came back, and I'm listening to Not a Podcast, and I was like, I don't know what I was doing, and I happened to follow him on the new account, and then I'm listening to the show, and as they're talking, he's like, hey, that homo cyclist just followed me, Tyler, and should I block him? And Bert's like, now he's a good guy, and they both, and I was like, oh, so I didn't get the block from Lee, and I was disappointed I got the block from him to begin with, but you know what? That's the way things go. It's you gotta prove your worth, and I came out of the blocks like I guess not how they liked.
Well, you're a cyclist, so you already got strikes against you.
But Steppy rides that Peloton bike all the time, so I don't know. I mean,
not in public though.
Right. Okay. Good points. Good points all around. Okay, so let's go through a few things. Do we have any more? We had released some of our sponsors. Episode was brought to you by Clint Russell's Kratom Emporium. We've already talked about that. Do you have any more sponsors on the way? Have you talked to anybody else? Anything else?
No, actually, all of my sponsors have canceled me. So we'll be looking for new sponsors for this next episode of Kill Pod, which is when this next Saturday.
Friday. I think we're gonna do it on Friday. Yeah, you're a problem. So. I'm thrilled that you've moved back home, but now you have like adult issues, like scheduling around kids, getting hammered. I don't know. You sent a pile of junk in the post or in a picture. I don't know if that was your house. It looked like a little meth lab you had created or something.
No, that's from when you clean out the back of a garbage truck. That was an old picture from the Texas. But I was just looking at it today.
Sure. Sounds.
It is scheduling now because my computer is in my daughter's room right now as it stands. So
Yeah, so that is a problem because there's only so much you can actually have on a show and be okay with. So I mean, it's what it is.
I've seen that you did a couple of hate watches since I last saw you. How did those go?
So I'll say one. We set the bar so high. We hit home run. I mean, it was a home run derby, but in a game that you and I did with Hannah. It literally was ridiculous. She had the perfect episode, which was her opinions on stuff that were just absolutely wrong. So we killed it. It was dynamite. And then I did one with Toad, and sadly, it was the Undoctrinated podcast, and they talked about their personal coming to liberty. And you couldn't really rip on it. We tried, but it didn't lend itself to that. And so it was the wrong episode to. And then last night I did with Adam Nutter, and it was more there's things on relationships, and they weren't that bad, honestly. So it was almost disappointing. I'm like, I'm done with these two. I can't, whatever. So we'll figure out something.
I think Prax Ben may be going on Undoctrinated soon.
Well, then we can't. He had some. I know you're friends with him, or you've done some spaces with him. You guys go out and hang out all the time, or something like that. Is that true?
No, I don't know him really that well. I've talked to him a few times online. He lives in Tennessee, though, so I'm sure I'll run into him at some point or another.
Right. So he got big and famous going on Dave's show, doing a thing on just TikTok or something like that, making these things, and he was good. He was pushing back against Hassan Piker. Is that the name? Is that the guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he had some really bad takes on Twitter. And that's when I stopped following him. Yeah, it was pathetic. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was so bad. I stopped following him. I'm like, I can't handle, and I had featured him on the show a few times, some clips. Maybe I'll go back and follow him. I think I might have done that when you were on the Twitter spaces with him. So who knows?
Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, for the most part, I like him. I don't know what the bad tweets you're talking about are, but he does some decent little work on as far as he's more active on Instagram and TikTok. I don't really have TikTok, but he'll put out some good little info videos on there. And he's working for Fee now, which is, I guess, Fee runs Undoctrination or whatever.
Yes.
What is that?
Don't stop talking. I'm just yes.
What's Fee stand for again? Economic or Foundation for Economic
Illiteracy? No, that's that would be hilarious. Even spell it wrong. Illiteracy.
Yeah.
Illiteracy, but that would be I don't know what the other economic education, I think, is what it is.
I think so. Yeah, he did have a couple of run-ins with Patrick McFarland from the Libertarian Institute. They had kind of some foreign policy back and forth, and I was hoping they would have a debate set up, but they never did. So I don't think there was ever any resolution in any of that. But that would have been interesting to listen to. Hopefully they can pick that one back up.
Right. So we did good point. Or lead in here. We did some hate watch. And by the way, here's the structure with this. They stream live to Odyssey. I'm not streaming live to Odyssey today. Rumble, I'm getting ridiculous. Well, in comparison to YouTube, really good video views over there. So I think it has to do with the way when you stream live to them, it helps. So I'm streaming live to Rumble. I'm not streaming live to Odyssey, partly because everyone's home and the video stuff's going on. And I did it the other day where I was going to all these platforms and it sucked some internet energy. So I'm just not doing it today right now. But when you do the hate watch, stream it live to Odyssey. So if you're a member, you can watch it there. That's perfectly good. Then about a week later, I put it to Spotify, and you can be a member there and do it for 99 cents a month. Once again, I'm just trying to gatekeep these things. And then we do it in like a week out. From there, put it onto the Substack, and I do it for free, but you just have to be a subscribing member. That's all. So you wait a little bit and you can do it that way. I just wanted people to see this, but I also want them to be more of a fan of the show, to see Andy's hate come out in such a unfiltered way.
There's plenty of it. Does Rumble have an app?
Rumble does have an app, and I will say it's a good one. I've been impressed with Rumble's stuff coming out, the shows, and you're able to close it and still watch it. So it's actually pretty good.
That was one of the benefits of Odyssey, but I always struggle with Odyssey crashing, just the app.
Right. So Minder wants to know if this is live or pre-recorded. This is pre-recorded. This was done a few weeks ago. So you're not seeing this live. Okay, there we go. One more announcement, and then we'll let you get to what you want to talk about, which I'm going to just ignore. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm doing a Tom Woods. You know how we started off some of these shows where we do a full review of the podcast, break it down and, kind of give us some grading and stuff like that. I'm doing one in honor of Tom Woods because it's 2,300 episodes to date. I'm going to do Tom Woods week. So I took 2,300 and I divided it by 5, and I'm doing that many clips each week. I mean, not that many clips, but I'm covering, sections 1 through 400 or whatever it is that week and pulling clips out. And then the next week or the next day. So I'm going to do 5 of those, and I'm going to probably pre-record those and put those out. Anyway, that's coming along, and it's a lot of work because 2,300 episodes. If you can imagine, there's a lot of good info in there. Yeah.
Are you falling asleep to the subtle sounds of Tom Woods' voice? And
what?
How do you feel about the index card of allowable opinion right now?
Yeah. So let me just tell you where I'm at on all this. So far, I've gone through all those episodes and I've selected the ones I want to review and play clips of. That's a lot right now. So I'm not even narrowed it down because there's a lot in each day. It's going to be like, several hundred episodes are involved in that range. And I've selected the ones I at least want to look at. And then from those, I'm going to get clips of. So it's going to be a while still. Tom Woods week, maybe a month out.
When's Scott Horton week?
That may be just as bad, if not worse. I don't know if I could do it. I just thought, I was like, I want to get back into doing some of this. And so Tom but it's good content. So anyway, anything you watched or checked out this last few weeks of podcast that you might be interested in telling us about?
I have gotten like 3/4 of the way through the Malice on Rogan thing, and that's about where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I listened to. I listened to a little bit of Dave on with Josh Eichel and whatever that guy is who had the debate at Soho.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was interesting. Dave was a lot nicer to those guys than maybe he should have been. But
you are spoiling my show today. No, that's good. That's good.
But I didn't watch much of it.
I want to talk about that because did you see Clint on the Spaces with that Jonathan Casey?
Yeah, I listened to about 5 minutes of that and then I turned it.
Okay. Because what I'm going to do, I thought it was really interesting that we had this space, and we'll get to it. Anyway, we're going to feature those. Anything else you checked out, saw?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I believe that's it.
Cool. So let's start with this. Good. I don't know if you know who this guy Joe is. My name is Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. Good Lawgic.
Not being in the truck has hurt my podcast listenership because now I'm like being dad all the time, so I don't get as much time to listen or focus in on stuff.
Yeah, work does help. That's where I get a lot of it in. Or when I was the more I work out, the more I get into shows too, because it's like uninterrupted time. So this guy Joe, he's New York attorney, and he came to my attention with Nick Rekieta's stuff. He's got almost 100,000 subscribers, and he just has a YouTube thing, and he streams like for hours at a time. I don't even think he's working as an attorney anymore. He said COVID kind of ruined it. He's kind of not maybe kind of mega like, but he's got a lot of libertarian, takes to him. So he tweeted, "Hey, who should I talk to about this SVB stuff bank?" And I said, Clint Russell is your guy. Clint had just done a show with Dave Smith, and it was really well done. You can tell Clint knows what he's talking about. And he goes, I've seen clips of him. He seems like a good guy, but does he know anything about this? And I was just like, he's a private banker, all this good stuff. So yes, he does. So he got him on, and I thought it was a great show. It was a 2 hours show. And the first hour was all financial stuff. And then the second was all libertarian. He just kind of, look, the guy we'll put it up here again. He has a NYPD hat on. So, but Clint does a really good job of talking the basics and pushing back and this whole kind of thing. I don't know if you saw Michael Malice, who was just recently on Patrick Bet David, and he did the whole, anarchy sucks and da 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 da, and it really pushes him, and it makes you think. And you have to have, they like to have certain scenarios that only could happen, right? And so Clinton did a good job with that. Seth says, "Go on, Tower Gang, you coward." We've both been on.
Yeah.
I've been on maybe
uninvited.
You've
what?
what?
My welcome over there. I'm uninvited.
Yeah, possibly.
All future shows.
Are you really?
I don't know. I'd wager to bet that though.
Oh, no, I think they think they're too big for us right now. But what will happen is, I mean, I've been on, I want to say 3 or 4 times. What will happen is they'll have a time where they don't have any guests and they'll be desperate and they'll reach out, which is how I get on most of the times I've been on. Yeah. So, okay. So let's play a few little clips here of Clint on with Mr. Joe Neerman is his name, an attorney, and talking about the banking stuff. And then we'll go.
A joint statement by the FDIC, the Fed, and the Treasury is that they are essentially underwriting and backstopping every depositor in America, regardless of balance. That's what they said. They've created a lending institution which allegedly doesn't fall on the taxpayer, but it does.
So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think that it's nonsense. I think that it creates what's called moral hazard, where your incentives are no longer in alignment to maintain reasonable risk parameters when you're making decisions as an underwriter for a bank. Your incentive is to take outsized risk and to not hedge, to do exactly what got Silicon Valley Bank in trouble in the first place. Is that if a money manager believes that they are safe, that they will never see jail time, and they will also be bailed out if they fail in their bets, well, then what incentive do they have not to make stupid, reckless, dangerous bets? It diminishes, right? So what do we see?
I said the same thing about bailouts in 2008. For the auto industry, for the banking industry, I was screaming about bailouts. In fact, one of my recent comments was when someone asked on Twitter, like, what should the government do about these bank failures? And my response was nothing, nil, nada, zip. It's not your job. It's not your responsibility. Nowhere in the Constitution do they have any authority, jurisdiction, any basis at all to intercede. They're not supposed to run the economy. Sometimes the reality is, unfortunately, the economy is going to stink, and we have to bear through it. And the government should do absolutely nothing, ever, ever, ever about it. And if they were empowered to do it, they would probably do a very, very lousy job of trying.
Okay. I thought that was pretty strong, and that's kind of it was a really good conversation. I enjoyed to see this, and I knew it would happen. And I'm going to play in the next clip will be a little bit of the humor that was involved in there as well. What do you think about what either one are saying about the banks?
Well, the banks are gay and should be allowed to fail, just like anybody else would be allowed to fail. But it's a great time to be Peter Schiff right now. Mises Institute also held a pretty good Twitter Spaces with Peter St. I forget how to say his last name, Onge or something, Onge, I think. And they had Jeff Deist on there, and I'm looking forward to checking that out here pretty soon.
Yeah. By the way, it's so odd. Jeff Deist reached out to me saying, because I asked him if he'd come and do the one that Tho did. And he's like, sure, I'll do it. But he was like 2 weeks late because we'd already done it with Tho. But then I'm like, hey, we didn't finish with Tho. You want to come in and finish that episode? Crickets. And then Nick Gillespie retweeted me 2 times this weekend, and he still is not in my DMs. But he keeps coming in there. Oh, we're gonna do a push-up. I would just say this about about what we just saw there. The regulation comes and goes with banks, and it's supposed to help, right? They say to do this, but what does a bank want to do? What are they the most fearful of? They should be the most fearful of failing, right? So there's a risk and there's reward, and if you take away all the risk, and you're trying to maximize this reward, then and the risk is gone, you're just going to go headlong into all this, and you're going to try to always, accomplish what you can without the risk being a problem. And since the banks are getting bailed out, they just go headlong into all these things all the time. And if the government wasn't going to bail out them or bail out their depositors, then the only thing you would have is the market would regulate, and they would pull themselves back all the time, because their biggest fear, once again, would be getting sued, going out of business, those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, the competition in a free market would pretty much weed out all these circumstances if the banks were allowed to fail. From what I've seen in the Janet Yellen, congressional or Senate hearing or whatever, and it seems like they're going to, what their plan is going to end up eventually consolidating pretty much into 5 or 6 major big banks, and the regional and smaller banks will probably wither away within the next decade or so. It's what it seems like.
When I worked for a brokerage company, Man, my dog's playing with the squeaky toy. It's driving me crazy. I think it's the dog, at least. We had obviously FDIC insurance, but then it was also called fireman's insurance. It's the company, and it's private insurance that extends up to, I want to say, up to $1 million or more for your brokerage accounts, and that's kind of what you would. And basically, as part of having that, they extended this kind of insurance that was available for your deposits. And I'm like, okay, we have FDIC, and these banks could be doing this kind of additional insurance, which is out there. I don't know if they are, but anyway, that was interesting. So, okay, let's go to the next one here.
Component that comes into this as well. I don't want to live in chaos either. And for the record, I'm not a left anarchist. I'm not one that believes that hierarchy is abhorrent and we must get away from it. I believe that hierarchy is natural, but only natural hierarchy is good. There is also, coercive criminal hierarchy that comes through government, where you just get elected because you've lied and you're a scumbag, but you get to the highest levels of power and then you abuse the hell out of it. I like people that actually rise to positions of authority because they're honorable, good, impressive people. The natural leader, the quarterback of the team, the guy who really deserves your respect, deserves to be followed by other people. So I think that's like Swalwell. Eric Swalwell. I was like, that's the last person I want to listen. The dude threatens to nuke us all the time, man. Come on.
He also looks like someone who he looks like someone who just is like a bedwetter. Like that's why totally. when I see him, that's good.
Anyway, I thought it was good to Joe. I enjoy this guy for law stuff, but he's also interesting. And he made a point to Clint about using the word anarchy. He thinks it's just a horrible way to go about. And I get it, because it does turn people off. Everyone knows that word and they know it wrong. And then you have to define it. And then you go, well, this is my definition. And it's like, okay, I get it. It doesn't always work. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you call it, but you could say stateless or whatever. Clint did actually pretty good job there talking about natural hierarchy. I was surprised with that.
No, he does really good job on these things. I've watched several, when I got started doing the show, the first thing what I was going to do is I was going to watch Clint. Play one more clip here. Clint, and it was like episode 26, and he had his friend on, and his friend was interested in libertarianism, and it was kind of this whole thing. His friend was just pushing back. And I first was, because Clint, this is how I found Clint. He's on Twitter, and he's like, I had this podcast and this episode's going to convert millions. It was like such hyperbole. And then he had deleted it. Now, I don't know if he was just deleting tweets and I couldn't find it later on, or if he deleted it because it was ridiculous. But I said, I'll check it out. And I was like, I'm going to trash this. This is one of the first things I'm going to do. I'm going to trash this guy. And then I listened to it. And then I had to listen to it a few times to kind of get, wrap myself around it. And I was just like, more and more I listened, I was like, this guy's pretty good. His technique of talking about the basics, always going back to property rights, was impressive to me. And then I was hooked. And then this bald fucker was a guy I liked. So there you go.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Wiggerty Lockdown. I'm hoping he's going to debate Destiny here on foreign policy, which I don't expect to go that well.
Destiny, is this? Oh, first it's Destiny's Child, and then it's no, I don't know who Destiny is. Who's Destiny?
Destiny, the Omni Liberal or whatever on Twitter, but he's a popular YouTuber in the vein of like a Vaush type guy. Although I think him and Vaush have some kind of beef or disagreement or whatever. But on the Take Human Action Mises Caucus tour,
that's right.
They're supposed to be coming to Nashville, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'll see Jeff Dice too, and I can ask him, or I can tell him to keep dodging you and dodging our show.
Yeah. So in this interview, by the way, that last little joke that Joe did, I wanted to play that because they had a lot of good interaction, and it was sometimes you bring guests on and you can just tell I was like, oh, these two are going to get along great and it's going to be good, and it was great, and there was pushback and it was funny and it was whatnot. At one point, Clint says, "Oh, I'm going to debate this Destiny," and Joe's like, how the hell are you getting? You're on, and he goes, "Oh, but later on, he's like, I'm Tim Pool. I don't know if you know who Tim Pool." He goes, "Of course I know who Tim Pool is." It was yeah. So he did mention Destiny on his one too as well. So, okay, let's keep going here. This one's maybe a little more serious. This is on China being a global threat.
Fact that's very, very fascinating. I think that your audience would be interested to know. In my estimation, that the reason that the U.S. dollar maintains its purchasing power after we came off the gold standard in the 1970s was because we got. Yeah, exactly. Because we got Saudi Arabia to agree to sell its oil exclusively in the U.S. dollar, which ultimately meant that there was going to be a ton of U.S. dollars being traded overseas. And that was huge because it gives an underlying value, kind of a hard asset, like a surrogate hard asset aspect to the U.S. dollar. Well, recently, in fact, this week, China negotiated peace between Iran and Saudi Arabia. So two of our enemies and one of our former allies have now put pen to paper and said in a joint statement that Iran, who we have been on a war footing with forever, my entire life practically, and Saudi Arabia are now going to be opening up their embassies and reopening peace talks and blah, 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 which might be good for Yemen because they've been being destroyed by the Saudis for a long time now. And also also China is trying to broker a peace or a sit down between Zelensky and Putin. So they're trying to basically,
that's what I was saying we should have been doing. I was saying this over a year ago. I was like, why we should be brokering a peace agreement between them, divide the stinking country in half. If anything, Zelensky should be happy by keeping only half, because he's much more likely to win future elections because most of the Russians are, fortunately for him, are situated to the east.
Exactly.
And you basically carve out that portion there, and you come to some sort of financial terms with them, where basically we form an agreement with Russia against China.
Okay. Thought it was interesting to see his perspective on that. The China thing is interesting. Our downfall could be that they are getting us off the petrodollar or taking themselves off, going through China of some sort. I don't know.
Well, I mean, China's banking system is basically an accelerated version of ours. So it's essentially a house of cards as well. There's big China hawking here in the U.S.
Yes.
And I don't want to go to war with China, regardless of how many Uyghurs they got locked up. I mean, those are my people, those Uyghurs. But I'm not into starting new wars over dumb shit.
I actually was listening to, I think it was Glenn Beck this last week, or maybe it was Friday, and he was talking to someone, and he made the point about the China thing, where the conservatives are such all over it. He's like, there could be a genocide going on, whatever, of the Uyghurs. You kind of, mentioned that, but kind of like, okay. But then was like rebuking all the GOP about taking this on as like the next boogeyman. It's like the big thing, and it's to get everyone riled up. And I thought that was at least a good call, but I'm probably deaf ears because you got the sub.
Glenn Beck's been getting better, huh?
I think so. The last, 10 years or so, he's really been opened up to talking to different people, for all kinds of, before Dave Rubin was right wing or whatever, he was still lefty. He was talking to him, and he'll have good conversations with all kinds of people. I don't know. I think that's important.
A boomer version of Alex Jones.
Yeah. And by the way, if you ever, I have CDs here somewhere of his old shows. And there was
no wonder you like them.
Well, and the reason being because it used to be just legit comedy. I mean, they did bits. They would it was fascinating. They would do anyway, it was
that
all kinds of stuff.
That Christmas special we watched was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was Stu, right? That was pretty good. Yes, I agree. You did watch that?
I popped in there for a little bit with you.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Or I was in the chat, I can't remember. But yeah, I think a lot of conservatives get this wrong on all the China hawking stuff, and I understand, the one-sided trade deals, and we've basically been set up to lose to China, and how the World Economic Forum views them as the model for future societies and stuff. The problem is that it was our own politicians who sold us out to China. We're so aggro towards our own production here that, of course, people are going to leave for cheaper labor and taxes and exemption status. I mean, the U.S. policy towards our own production is just basically it creates the vacuum for these places to leave to China and Mexico and India, industries to leave. So, I mean, it starts at domestic policy and foreign policy are two sides of the same coin.
So here was this, and I recorded it off, and then I posted it to my YouTube page, but it's unlisted just so I can play clips from it. And I can play all of it, but do you know what the original debate topic was?
No.
Okay. I can't quite tell either, but I'm suspecting it was about platforming people. And so we're going to play some of it. So you ready for this?
Probably not, but let's go.
I cut some of it out, but let's go.
People here, I'm going to have y'all both introduce yourselves again. Jonathan and then Clint.
Yeah. My name is Jonathan Casey. I've been activist in the Libertarian Party for about 3 years. Started the Libertarian Party of Texas. Moved on and started the Libertarian Classical Liberal Caucus. A few weeks ago, I was at a debate in New York on national divorce, and that's about it.
Okay, let's talk about the divorce, the debate first. So, did you see the Soho Forum debate with Jonathan Casey?
No, because Ryan McMakin wasn't there, and they had a Canadian in his place who came in last minute. So I don't really consider that a victory for Jonathan Casey.
Did he get the win?
I think he won. Yeah.
Because I tuned in and it was already the second round type of thing, and I'm listening. I couldn't figure out, they were both so bad. I couldn't figure out who was on what side. So I rewound it and I listened to the beginning. I was like, oh, Casey is against national divorce. Oh, okay. I couldn't tell by the way he was arguing. And then the other guy was just kind of mocking him, and it wasn't going. But he was so bad. I was just like, I found him on Twitter and blocked him immediately.
Yeah.
And then I'd never heard of him before. And then he came up on this Twitter Spaces, and I was like, oh, interesting. He's kind of getting some play here and there. Anyway, that was my deal. I guess we can get back to it.
Lincolnite's gonna Lincolnite.
Great, thank you. And Clint, go ahead.
Clint Russell, host of Liberty Lockdown and Tower Gang, and all around, firebrand for the loser brigadiers that are disappointed that they lost the LP.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys. All right. So I don't know, after all this, who officially challenged who to a debate. So I'm going to, I guess, flip a coin and whoever. And so
honestly,
guess, yeah.
I think it should just be Jonathan, because he's the one that he has the critique. So I think it should be leveled before I make any sort of statement as to my defense,
That sounds good.
Just so you know, we're going to play like the first 3 minutes or so you get an idea of how this starts out right away.
Great. Okay. So I don't have to flip a coin. Good, because I didn't have one on hand. I was going to go find one. All right. Great. Jonathan, go ahead and state your position.
All righty. Yeah, so my main contention, I am a supporter of free speech absolutism, but I do think that there is a responsibility when interacting with ideas, especially ideas that are really harmful to the liberty movement, such as racism or pedophilia, that you do have to push back on those ideas. So my issue with Clint is that often he does not push back on those ideas. In fact, sometimes he makes a joke like, do the Jews deserve it? Which is fine, you can make jokes, but if you're representing yourself as a speaker for the liberty movement, I don't think that's going to come off very well. Also, when we're talking about creating these pedophile communities, Clint goes on to talk about how he doesn't know if 13-year-olds can consent or not. And I have a big issue with that, because when you host people on your podcast and you give them a platform, you should speak out and say that no, libertarians do not think that 13-year-olds can consent. So I disagree with him on not speaking up on these issues and allowing people to speak. It's fine that he allows people to speak. I don't really care who he lets on, but if he's representing himself as a member or as a spokesperson for the libertarian movement, then I think he needs to actually speak out against those ideas that do the movement a lot of harm.
Did you watch the interview?
I'm sorry?
Did you watch the interview?
Yes.
The whole thing?
Yes.
And do you understand the backdrop to why that interview even occurred?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, do you know that Thaddeus Russell specifically tweeted out about that 13-year-old and whether or not they consent? And do you know that's why I asked him that question in that exact phrasing?
You didn't ask him a question. You stated that you didn't know if a 13-year-old can or can't consent.
No, it was based off of his tweet is why I framed it that way. Do you know that?
Frame the question. You made a statement. You said, I do not know if they can or can't consent.
Do you understand that when you're interviewing someone, you're trying to give them an opportunity to explain themselves better? And when it was his premise that he had known people that were underage that had sex that felt that they weren't victimized. I was giving Thaddeus an opportunity to explain himself better. That was the reason for the framing. The entire premise for the discussion was that I was having on Eliza Blue at the time, who was an uncontroversial figure, to push back against his claims that people that are underage can have sex. That was the entire premise of the conversation. So the fact that you've taken a 5-second sound clip out of a 2-hour interview and framed that as if those are my ideas, when in fact the only reason I was having the discussion was so that Thaddeus would have to answer to someone who was at the time, one of the most outspoken and well-known advocates on behalf of children that are being sex trafficked. And yet you're going to frame it as if I was agreeing with Thaddeus.
Okay, so first of all, did you? And I want to get back into some more of this, by the way. Did you see the interview with Clint, Thaddeus, and Eliza Blue?
Yeah, I watched it when it happened.
Okay. At any point, first of all, what did you think of that interview?
I mean, I thought it was interesting, but also I'm not really interested in the age of consent debate, although I know people can fucking lose their minds about the shit. So.
Right. So I didn't follow along with Thaddeus at the time about talking about underage stuff. The only thing I'd heard him and his show was him talking about kind of the Romeo and Juliet type of stuff. Okay. Which I have sympathy for to some extent. You know, if you're 17 dating a 19-year-old, and you have sex, you can be put in jail for that and that, or whatever, be on a list. That seems kind of ridiculous to me. I mean, hey, it's the, I'm going to chase the cops, and as soon as I cross this state line, I'm free. You know, it's like, it's just a weird kind of concept in that regard. I never thought that Clint was agreeing with Thaddeus. Matter of fact, he had some pushback, and I haven't gone back over and watched that. So, what do you think of the framing from Jonathan Casey on this, that Clint is, by transfer properties, he's actually a pedo lover?
Well, this will be, he sounds a lot like this Jonathan Casey guy, sounds a lot like Destiny, or talks like him. Maybe it's at 1.5 speed or whatever you got it at. So this would be, I guess that's good practice for Clint. I don't know. I mean, I think the framing is obviously disingenuous, but you can't even have the conversation about any of that stuff, or like, what would a private legal society do about things like age of consent or pedophilia? Like, what is the, you know, without the state monopoly on this, or the state legal monopoly on it, what would it look like? You know, you can't even begin to broach that conversation without people losing their fucking minds, and then, you know, hailing all sorts of accusations at you. So, but
I mean, there's definitely a difference. There's definitely a difference though of like Ace, Thaddeus, and Clint on this topic. I don't think, I think it's Clint's very forthright that he would beat you to death if he.
And we said that in the interview, right? So,
right. So let's play a little bit more, because
is that your contention?
That's not my framing. You made a statement.
Yeah.
It was not a question.
Dude, you're taking 5 seconds. It's not a statement. It's trying to get your guests to explain their position. If I had said, Thaddeus, you're a pedophile, would that have been the better way of putting it? Even though he's only having a discussion about whether or not people can consent before they're 18, would it have been better?
You could have simply said, I disagree. I do not think that they can consent. Why don't you think that?
Well, I did go on. Did I not go on just a few minutes later to say exactly that, and that I would find it to rise to the level of capital punishment?
Yeah, but you also, I mean,
so did I say? If I did say that, then how could you possibly contend that I'm agreeing with his position?
You're saying that if you walked in on it, I remember that clip. I don't remember you talking specifically about whether or not the state should be involved in instituting capital punishment for it.
Yeah, most anarcho-capitalists don't talk about the state being involved, do they?
No, because because they understand that if there wasn't a state involved, you'd have all these pedophile communities around. That's my fundamental issue.
That's honestly what you believe anarchists believe.
For protecting other people.
So you believe that anarchists believe that there should be pedophile communities? Is that honestly your premise?
My premise is that that anarchy, that individuals have to be protected from each other, and that government is there to do that, or at least should be restricted to that purpose. And if you remove that, then yes, there would be pedophile communities all over the place. I don't think all anarchists think that way. I don't think they all want that to happen, but that would be the result of it.
Just Clint.
That's just, it's absurd to even believe that. It's heartbreaking to hear someone that claims to have been a libertarian at any point believing that our discussions about ways to alleviate child predation without a state is in fact an endorsement of pedophilia in any form or fashion. It is in fact trying to remedy the issue without the state, which any good libertarian has considered at some point in their life. The fact that you haven't, the fact that you think that the state has to be involved to protect children is your downfall, not mine.
You can call it my downfall all you want. I'm not the one who then suggested, well, maybe we should just have parents be in charge of if children can consent or not.
Okay, so I'm going to try to clip to the part where he talks about.
Seems like
play the whole thing though, because
what's that?
Seems like a lot of projection from Mr. Casey here.
Yeah,
right after that, I say, yeah, but that's probably not a good solution either.
Elisa Blue said that.
Okay, let's try to get here.
And you're saying that you agree with them on these issues.
Be the first one to sign up for one of those pedophile communities.
Do you think
What's that?
Said he seems like one of the types that would be the first to sign up for one of those communities.
Right. Well, I got to.
Yeah. What is the government there for? Right. It's a threat of violence. So.
Okay, so I can't find the full clip there because I didn't do all my vetting on this. But at some point, he talks about Ryan Dawson coming on, and he did annihilating the Jews and some bunch of other stuff. And I thought it was somewhat disingenuous there. This is a clip. Let me play this because I did download this. So just.
I agree with Thaddeus Russell that a 13-year-old can consent, even though I said I would punch until my knuckles broke if I were to see it. Do you think I agree with him?
Yeah, if you walked in on it, but that doesn't mean you would try to prevent it.
That would be I mean, is that not how you would prevent it?
No. Well, you'd stop it, but that doesn't mean that there is a reason why we have a government, right? If it's not there to protect children, what else is it there for?
Yeah. What is the government there for, right? It's a threat of violence. So with the absence of the state, I am that violence. You're too much of a bitch to even consider actually intervening when you see a child being attacked.
I literally said the exact opposite.
You need the cops to intervene because you wouldn't do shit. I don't live that way.
No, I would stop it. First of all, I would stop it, and then yes, I would.
I don't think you would.
Involved.
I don't think you would. I don't think you'd stop it.
I haven't stopped pedophilia, but I've certainly stopped abuse of someone that I've seen. So yeah, you can talk to you.
Okay, so the key Andy said he lost the internet, so I don't know what happened. Did he pay his rent or something? I clipped out that part right there where it says he goes, "I haven't stopped pedophilia." Okay, I clipped it and then put it on the Twitter exchange. Basically, like, this is an unbelievable statement. Okay, there you go. We'll see if Andy comes back. I can hear you. I can't see you though.
Oh hell.
Keep trying. Okay. Well, he'll keep trying to come back. So anyway, I thought that was very disingenuous. He talked about Ryan Dawson. You don't let these people come on your show. You don't do this and that. And that was the whole show. And so what I will do, let's do this here. Then he has on Dave Smith. So with that in mind, I thought we'd play some clips of Casey with Dave Smith. And there we go. How you doing?
Am I back? Can you hear me? Yeah.
I can hear you.
So Ryan Dawson, where we leave off at?
Oh, so I just played a clip that I had of them and basically where Clint's like, you wouldn't do anything. I came in, I would do something. And the guy's like, I would stop pedophilia. Well, and he actually said in there when he kind of rephrased, well, I haven't stopped pedophilia. So I actually clipped that 2-second part out and I put it back on Twitter. And I'm like, where he says, I haven't stopped pedophilia. And I'm like, wow. And it's basically doing the same idea. It's like a disingenuous, out of context clip, which is what he's doing here as well. I thought it was ridiculous. The part with Ryan Dawson, I couldn't find it exactly on here, but he said, oh, you had Ryan Dawson on your show and he's an anti-Semite. He hates the Jews. And it's like, okay, you can have a conversation with people, right? Now, we know Dave Smith has had Ryan Dawson. Now, there's a famous fight between the two of them, but he's had Ryan Dawson on a few times, correct?
Has he? I didn't know that.
Okay, he has. Way to play along. He's had Nick Fuentes on at least once, and he's done a debate with him. You know that, right?
Yeah. I watched that.
So, and then he's talked about the 12 shots and consent. Can you consent? There's all those things with Dave Smith too, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, there's many aspects out there that he's probably worse on than Clint. We can all agree with that, I would imagine, right?
Objection, Your Honor, leading the witness, but yes.
Yeah, well, you're a hostile witness, so I'm allowed to do so. Okay, so let's start here with this debate between these guys and what they say. Classical Liberal Project.
Hello and welcome to the Classical Liberal Project. I am Jonathan Casey, chair of the Classical Liberal Caucus. With me, as always, is Joshua Eagle on the board as well, and we've got Dave Smith of part of the Problem Podcast. Welcome, Dave. Thanks for coming on.
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I wanted to give you a shout out early on, Dave, before we got into the whole shebang around NATO. I think you were catching a little bit of criticism internally from some of the people in Mises about kind of coming on the show and having the conversation. And one of the things that you said was, like, if we can't change their mind, then it was something like, we can't change their mind, it's not worth doing. Having these conversations is like very important. And I really appreciate you like going out of your way to do this. So it really means a lot.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. What I said was that it was Karen Ann Harlos, who I love very dearly.
Yep.
And she was like, oh, you're just going to be getting more viewers to their channel. And I was like, well, yeah, but like if anyone like is they're coming here to watch your show because they're a fan of mine,
right?
If they're more persuaded by what you have to say than what I have to say, then I deserve to lose them. Like that's the correct answer. And if I'm like my whole thing, and I've always felt this way, is like, well, I'm confident they won't be. So that's the whole point. And then I'm confident I'm more likely to at least get you guys or your audience to go, all right, he's got a good point on that or on that. And so, but I mean, what shot, the libertarians have if we can't do that anyway. So
well said. Yeah,
we might as well pack it. We might as well pack it in if we don't feel like we can do that.
I just wanted to say thank you for that early on. So that's great. I'm looking forward to the conversation. I think we're gonna have a great time.
Okay, so they didn't stop Dave. It's weird because we just heard with Clint, you should not let these people come on your show and you'd have pushback. So immediately they're letting Dave, the guy that platforms Nick Fuentes, platforms Ryan Dawson, talks about consenting women with, they're drunk, all these kind of things, 12 shots in, all these problems Dave has. And once again, he was very took on Clint, and he's
to Dave. Why aren't they pushing back on him?
Right. He just had this thing with Clint. I think Dave's balls are in his mouth and he can't really say much. I took every comment, and I'm not going to do it. I decided we didn't have enough time. I took every time he commented. I had a clip for it, and he didn't comment as much as Josh. And by the way, this whole part, I think Josh is fine. He's much nicer this way. He's kind of a tool bag on Twitter. And Dave does a great job here. I didn't have a problem with the thing, push back where he needed to. And Dave does a great job of always being nice to these people. But it does make you wonder, should you even have a debate with them when they're so disingenuous offline or to your face with Clint? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it does beg the question. I did enjoy that debate. I think from what I watched, Dave was wrecking them, but it's hard to have a foreign policy debate with a minarchist in general who's always going to pick one competing gang over another.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, let's play this. This actually, they finally rip into Dave here at the end. So I thought this was classic. So.
It up and then hand off to Dave. I just want to say I really appreciate you coming in and being civil and having this conversation. Very often when we try to engage with this back and forth, especially within the party, it's very toxic and there's a lot of blocking going on and no one's willing to talk. So really appreciate the fact that you were sitting here, articulate your views and listening to us and having a discourse, civil discourse is very enjoyable. And I earned a lot of respect for you. So again, thank you. And I hope we can do it again soon.
Well, thank you very much for that. And I just right back at you. And I appreciate that. It is look, man, Twitter is just toxic,
it's toxic.
Dude. And I know it's me too. I know I'm not above it too. It's just these short quips. And the only thing you can do, you can't really elaborate on the point. So the only thing you can do is just try to dunk on whoever you're going at the quickest. I know I'm as guilty of it as anyone else, but I do appreciate that. I kind of I don't know you guys. So I didn't really know what to expect coming into this. I was all right, this is going to go one of two ways. We're going to have a conversation about these things, or they're going to be right away you're a Nazi or something.
I had a feeling it was going to do the same thing. It went well. I'm glad.
I appreciate you guys. I'm saying I can do the other way too, but I'd kind of rather do this because this is what I actually care about. Is talking about these ideas. So I appreciate that from both of you very much. And I think all of this stuff is important. Oh, dude, that'd be great if Jonathan just left and then just came back cursing me out right after that. We're having this,
I think his wife walked in the room or something.
Yeah.
Good guy, Dave.
This is I do have this clip. Let's see if we can see this one. Listen to this.
I haven't stopped pedophilia.
Yeah, stop pedophilia.
No, of course he hasn't. I have any plan stopping it anytime soon either. Not even if he walked.
Right. Okay. So let's go on to Biden on the gays. What do you? You ready for this?
You'll never be a woman.
All right.
I wanted to ask auntie and uncle that I have.
Is that
auntie? That there hasn't been a wedding yet, but
hang on.
But Cardi.
What was that?
Is this the dude from Harold and Kumar?
Yeah.
He's a homo?
Yeah, they didn't get White Castles. They got hot dogs or Coney Island dogs or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Whoops. I probably shouldn't have had that part in there. So what do you think about that? How much of that is believable?
None of it, but it is funny, and I hope he keeps going down this path because it's just going to piss more people off. I mean, once you create the parents as a voting bloc, and people start to lose faith in the federal government and the president himself. That's good.
Well, let's talk about what he said there. 1961 was when he graduated high school, by the way. He said he was a senior. I looked it up. 1961. His parents were Catholic. 1961, Catholic family. You see two dudes making out. Is his dad going to say it's about love, or is he going to say something else?
His dad might be gay.
Closeted though. He's not going to be okay. It's such bullshit. It's and by the way, then people have fact checked this, even lefties, and they're like, he wrote a book. One time it was him saying that to his daughter. It was other people. I mean, he's made up so many stories. This one is just not believable. But I thought we would at least present.
He's a known plagiarist, right? And he lied about where he graduated or his placement or whatever in college and all that sort of thing. So
Look, in an Obama-Biden administration, there will be absolutely no distinction from a constitutional standpoint or a legal standpoint between a same-sex and a heterosexual couple. We very much would like to see you pass legislation now saying end, don't ask, don't tell. I want to start off by saying, first and foremost, I'm proud of you. There's not a single thing about you that's not normal, good, and decent. I think the country's evolving, and I think there's an inevitability for a national consensus on gay marriage. That is my view. I am absolutely comfortable with the fact that men marrying men, women marrying women, and heterosexual men and women marrying men all are entitled to the same exact rights, all the civil rights, all the civil liberties. Thanks to you, our children and grandchildren are growing up in a world that is far more just, far more open-minded, far more humane. But here's the hard truth. For all the hard-won progress you have made, for as much as we can celebrate how much better things have gotten, this fight, as you know, is not nearly over. By the way, too many, particularly trans women of color, are being murdered. It's got to stop.
Hey, Spike Cohen.
It's got to stop.
Give us the Spike
Trans-
Cohen line.
President-elect Harris and I are
Trans
committed
women of color.
to being the most pro-equality administration in history.
Flanked by his defense
Oh.
secretary and the chairman of the
Fucking
Joint Chiefs of
mask.
Staff, President Biden ended the ban on transgender troops today.
The Biden administration is reversing a Trump-era policy relating to healthcare. HHS saying federal law does protect gay and transgender people against healthcare discrimination.
I'm proud to lead the most pro-LGBTQ equality administration in U.S. history. But we must protect the gains we've made and fend off the cruel and unconscionable attacks we're seeing now to ensure that everyone enjoys the full promise of equality and dignity and protection. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families, it's simply wrong. And I've said last year, especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president.
Oh,
so
don't
you
say
can
you're going to
be
have their
yourself
back.
and reach your God-given potential.
I've got your rope to the young transgender
Right.
kid out there. You know what's watching that is so funny to me is the conservative response is like, "Oh, we had the first gay whatever in office." It's like,
Right.
It's such a lost cause at this point.
It is. I don't know what to say. I mean, he's a big liar. Speaking of which, looks like Donald Trump's going to be arrested here on Tuesday for paying off.
I hope so.
Stormy Daniels, and I'm like, first of all, that should be legal. This isn't a Walter Block. You should be able to force something or go. I don't know what he did that was illegal, but evidently he paid her off. And they're going to arrest him for that. It seems stupid that that's the reason they're going to go for. But the boomer con, huh?
Is her lawyer, that Avenatti guy, still in prison?
Yes. So I don't think I think they probably disassociated their attorney's ties. So yeah.
Well,
so what do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
I hope Trump gets arrested.
Is that going to help him or hurt him?
I mean, it'll probably help with this BoomerCon base, but to me, I'm just like, obviously this is all purely political. It's not like based on an actual crime or rights violation. So
no,
just go ahead and do it. The sooner we get to like full on banana republic, the sooner people lose faith in all of this, the better.
Well, and it does show some things to me, which is if the right, they're we're gonna fight back and we're gonna do all this, Posobiec and his ilk. Well, then why haven't they done anything in any states against anybody? Like, why haven't they done this kind of same perp walks? Hunter Biden. There's tons of stuff on his laptop that's illegal. Someone's got to have some jurisdiction go after him somehow. But that hasn't happened. So you're a bunch of pussies in that sense too. So
yeah, well, Jack Posobiec is a fucking psyop. So.
But he wore sunglasses on Tim Pool last time. Didn't you see that?
No, I didn't. But I didn't see him get punked out by multiple Antifa members.
He's such a dumbass. I didn't see that's disingenuous too. When he came after, and look, this seems to be a Clint heavy show. I do like Clint. It's interesting. We talked about the demise of Not a Podcast, who they don't like Clint, and there's some there's some pulpo friction going on there, but we did have those two. We had a meeting of the minds of them on the same show.
Lee sparked off the whole thing with Thaddeus. So.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back and forth between Lee and Thaddeus that brought that
up. Last thing, I'm not going to play any clips. Did you see the Stanford Law School? They had the judge come out there, and then they all protested, and they even did the snapping of the fingers type of thing that lefties do. Did you see any of that?
No. What were they protesting?
It was just a Trump appointed judge, and they didn't want him to talk. So they didn't feel like they had a safe space. And it was, it was crazy, because if you're going to be an attorney, you're going to be before judges that you've got to figure out, well, let's listen to what they say so I can figure out how to manipulate this situation into the best way possible. There's some judges I know, you just got to kind of skirt around some of these social justice issues one way or another, because that might trigger them, right? And figure it out. And they didn't want to hear him talk. So they had a diversity, equity, and inclusion person from the school come and talk, and she did like a 9-minute rant about how she wasn't feeling like it was crazy. It's Stanford Law. I mean, it's crazy.
That's good. I mean, I'm glad we're winning on some fronts and pissing these people off. But what they want is we all know they want hegemonic power, and they want control of every judge and DA from state, local, all the way up to federal. So
yeah,
I mean, you gotta have to start doing something and get engaged somehow. I'm glad they are pissed off and protesting. I've seen some recent protests. Obviously a lot of people are protesting the anti-drag queen storytime bill that's going on in Tennessee right now, which I'm thankful for, and the abortion stuff here. And it's like, you know what? This is like the beginning of some federalism. I wish there was a nullification crisis every day in this country for every state. So,
yeah.
If you don't like it, leave.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to leave. Fight. I should leave California.
Or you can go to a state that has more favorable laws. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I'm going to do a breakdown of, so they have this law here they passed, I want to say 2020, called AB 5. And it basically it almost outlaws being a independent contractor. And the goal of it was the taxis and these horrible unions to push back against Uber and Lyft type of thing. Okay. So they passed this law, and it makes it where those companies would have to hire you as employees, which then means you're going to have to give them benefits and everything, which means those companies would not do business in California. It's not plausible. So then what those companies pushed back and people with lawsuits against the state of California. And then we passed a proposition called Prop 22, which basically kind of codified that you can have these gig economies and these things anyway, it overstepped the legislature. So both of those are competing things in the courts. And I just went through the Court of Appeals, and I watched the video. They came out and ruled actually for Uber and these types. So it's actually a good thing. Part of the thing that they did was they then started to narrow it down and say, okay, well, we're going to let you WAG, which is like Uber for dogs type of thing. That's going to be okay, but not Uber itself, not Lyft itself. And I'm going to play and do some commentary on the video itself of the appeals court arguments, because the attorney for the state is he's got a horrible client in a sense, and it's fascinating. So anyway, that's something I'm going to do coming up. What do you got going on?
That'll be interesting. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be total pay to play scenario like all taxi medallions are.
Yeah.
I don't have anything going on. I'm just looking forward to the next Conspiracy Kill Pod. Sign up, send me or Tyler a message if you want, and we'll get you on.
Yeah, see if your internet will work by then. We do need, by the way, Zach can't do it. What's his name? Sam Tripoli did get back to me. Who are we going to have as our special guest? I got to get on this week.
Well, it's your turn to invite. So
who's you really want Josie?
Don't put this off on me now.
No, I'm asking you. I'm going to invite, but who do you think we should have?
Viewer's choice. Who is a controversial woman that Tyler should publicly invite to be a special guest host? Fine. He had me on Yoga Pants Chick last time around and publicly embarrassed myself. I had to unblock her. So now it's his turn to embarrass himself. And he's trying to,
by the way,
weasel himself out of it.
That was a different scenario. That was Josh was on. We were just trying to have her come on and rant and kind of make fun of her. She didn't want to do that. We're talking about the guest host here.
I don't know. Sam Tripoli did fun.
Zach Brown was another one I thought. I've asked Robbie the Fire. He keeps coming back and forth, and then he's not. He can't nail these people down. So, I mean, Top Lobster is going to join us. He may just have to be the special guest. He's raucous enough to do it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to have Top Lobster do it.
All right, maybe we'll see what they can do with that then. Okay, maybe I'll reach out to Josie real quick and see if she would do it. She'd bring in some viewers. I don't hate her. Maybe we can play the clips of me going at her on. On my show and see if she's down to argue with that stuff again. Okay, whatever. Anything else there, Andy, before we let you go watch some basketball?
Well, Top could be your end to getting Josie on because he's been pretty soft towards her lately.
Oh, yes. Or hard.
Yeah. Well, he's got a soft spot for her lately.
Right. It happens. It happens to all of us. But we all make amends and we learn to atone, or you become an ultra simp. That's the way it is.
Yeah. What about BoomerCon Ryan Dawson?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That actually, I don't know if that would be fun though, because he would just be upset that like anyone had any outside of the view of his view of conspiracies. He would just like try to shut him down instead of just letting him have fun.
Brian McWilliams, what do you think of him?
That would be fun. He's a good guy, good radio voice. He can hang.
Maybe I'll reach out to him real quick and see. I'll start with him and then we'll work our way down to Josie.
I know that's what you're looking forward to, is working your way to Josie. So
that's Clint's purview. All right, everybody. Thank you once again. Find us online and Gay. Appreciate you joining us for the show. This Gay is always in this show, and this time it was official. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you can find me at The Problem Dave Smith. Got a weekly show called Part of the Problem with another New York Jewish fellow by the name of Robbie the Fire Bernstein. It's a great show. Check it out. And yeah, those are my plugs.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye, guys.
But she's back.
Chick-fil-A is completely overrated. It's not that good. I prefer Zaxby's. I prefer Popeyes.
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick. And I guess that's me. Keep fucking that chicken.
Should I vote for Dick Cheney on the Libertarian Party? Do I have an obligation to vote for Dick Cheney?
I would say so.
Yes.
Did it work for those people?
No, it never does. I mean, these people somehow delude themselves into thinking it might, but it might work for us.
That one dude was like, not a podcast. I can't find it anywhere. They don't have video.
Oh, yeah, Peter Janke. Yeah.
Yeah, I blocked him.
I'll do it. If he unblocks me, I'll...
He'll buy your shirt if you unblock him, Bert.
He's a wigger.
Yeah, nothing cooler than a 49-year-old wigger. I just started live streaming. Cut me some slack. I'm pretty high tech for a boomer. But anyways,
boomer.